Hello, and what is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and in this video, we are going to be playing some Forza Horizon 3, drifting around in this wide-body GT86, and we're going to be talking about the drift roads in Forza Horizon 4. Now, we've gotten a couple more looks at some really interesting spots. There were a couple of new gameplay segments that got recently released in some interviews and stuff like that. That show the map and show not necessarily like the map on the map screen, but the mini map, and you can see that the roads that we're going to be dealing with are really nice and tight. You've got some nice switchbacks, some nice hairpins, and some really great stuff for the drifters and the drift community as a whole. And I know I've talked about this before, but I didn't really have any material to illustrate it with, but I do today. So that's actually really exciting to me because I always like to have some material to back up what I'm saying. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and show you guys the first spot that I want to talk about in regards to drifting and drift roads. Now, firstly, this road that you're going to see in just a second is mainly based on switchback hairpins, and frankly, the game needed more of those. So as you can see down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, the road starts, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, I'm not sure how long this road goes on for, but what I am certain of is that drift guys are going to be spending a lot of time here, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because I know for a fact I'll be spending a lot of time there too. Just even using it as a practice section. I can see it being a great spot for people that are new to drifting or people that have never drifted in Forza before. I can see it as a great spot for people to practice, to learn, to take a stock vehicle to and just practice getting a little bit sideways on the hairpin and then bringing it back into grip, and then get a little bit sideways coming out of the hairpin, bringing it back into grip. And because that is really what you need to do in order to learn how to slide. You need to do two things. You need to find an open parking lot or sort of open area, right? And pick a target, whether that be a light pole or a cone or whatever, and get some controlled donuts going around the object. And then, you know, take it to some hairpins, you know? Give it a little bit of slide out of the hairpin and then return it to grip. And then get a little bit of slide out of the hairpin and then return it to grip. And you can start going for earlier initiations, a little bit more angle, and then you can start to throw the e-brake in there, and then you can start to build on that, and you can start to mainly explore what you can do with the car. And then you learn that it's more of a weight transfer thing anyway, and sliding around is just the car's reaction to different inputs that you give it, and that's when it starts to become a lot more natural. But the next spot is actually really interesting, because the next spot is a little bit different. Now, when I say this next spot is a little bit different, the main thing that I'm talking about is how it looks like you've got this very flowy, again, more open, more kind of like longer hairpin section. But the cool thing about it is that there seems to be a theme going on here with these hairpin corners, and that is one of the best things to hear that I've heard or seen in a long time. And seeing that is like, all right. I'm on board, you know what I mean? I'm on board with this, and it's the fact that they listen to the drift guys. And I know that there's going to be those guys that are going to be like, no, they didn't listen to the drift guys. The game isn't in Japan. Obviously, they didn't listen. Yes, they did, guys. Yes, they did. And I don't want to sound like a broken record when I say that, but I want to kind of, you know, bring it across that just because the game isn't in Japan doesn't mean they didn't listen to the drift community, because seeing all these different hints and pieces of the map and things like that we've seen, they did. Obviously. You know, it's obvious that they listened because they added more elements into the map that we all knew were missing in Horizon 3. And in fact, the drift zone that I'm at right now in Horizon 3 is probably my favorite drift zone on the entire map, because it feels like a mountain. It feels it's got sort of that Fujimi vibe to it. And the roads in Horizon 3, I can see there being a Fujimi vibe to some of them. Now, it's not going to be a one-to-one recreation of Fujimi Kaido, obviously. You know, there would be no way and no reason to recreate Fujimi Kaido in the UK. Now, just because of the fact that it wouldn't be authentic, right? It wouldn't be authentic at all. But what we do have to work with is much more promising than what we've had to work with in Australia. And I think I'm not the only one I think I'm not alone in saying that some of the drift zones in Horizon 3's map felt really awkward and moderately forced, just because they felt like, oh god, we need a drift zone here, even though it's still super open. We got to put one here anyway because we need another drift zone. And that's not to say anything bad about them. It's like, I understand why most of the stuff, even the drift zones, were open. I mean, and that's because Australia is mostly open road. There's not really any tight mountain roads in Australia. I mean, I've never been to Australia, so I can't say that, with 100% confidence, but it's one of those things that, yeah, there's going to be more twisty, curvy back roads in, like, Scotland and Wales than there are in Australia. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. So I think it's fairly obvious, to say that, I think it's fairly obvious to be able to assume that you're going to have a much more drifting-focused map than we did with Australia, and that, to me, I think says a lot. And I think that, again, there's always going to be those people that are going to continue to harp on the fact that it's not in Japan. But I think doing that is missing the point on what the game is. And, there's always going to be those people that are going to be like, no, I'm not getting the game. It's not in Japan. I want in Japan. I'm not getting the game. And that's totally fair. I mean, that's their prerogative to do. But I do think that doing that is super short-sighted in the grand scheme of things and in the grand scheme of what the game is and what the game is all about. And I think that there's a lot that can be taken from the map itself, even if the UK wasn't your projected favorite location. Now, another thing I did want to talk about real quick was this clip here that it's interesting because I have it repeating a couple different times. Somebody put it on Reddit, and as you can see, the road is covered in leaves, just absolutely covered in leaves. And that makes me wonder if that's going to have a large effect on traction. And I'm leaning towards the thought process that it will, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and actually see and kind of feel how it is on that one. But they have said that the different seasons all affect the grip of the road differently, so leaves, like wet leaves all over the road surface, might be how it affects it in fall. And I think that would be an interesting one to see, because that could change the grip at any moment in time, right? Like, so if you're driving through an area that's got a lot of trees, and especially has like a tree canopy, and you've got a lot of leaves falling on the road, especially if those leaves are wet and it's been raining, you could be dealing with a super slick surface. I mean, like, stupidly slick. So, and it could go from grippy to slick in the blink of an eye, like no time at all. So that could be an interesting dynamic, and it could also have an interesting effect on how you race, considering that these races will go through different areas of the map that will obviously provide for these different experiences and different events as the race goes on. Now, I think we know based on different segments of gameplay that there's going to be a new Goliath race, which I think that, like, and it's weird because thinking about the new Goliath race, it's like I'm always curious to see, like, how long it's going to take, and that is going to show if that's going to be one of those main determining factors. Like, when the game comes out and we can actually, like, play that new Goliath race, that is going to be a big determining factor in, showing how big the map really is. And then I'm going to be very curious to compare the Goliath times from Horizon 4 to the Goliath times from Horizon 3. And that's that's going to be an interesting one to see. And also, I wonder if Goliath is going to be another one of those, ways to kind of get a lot of credits quickly-ish in the game. I mean, it's not necessarily a quick way to get credits, but, like, if you're willing to do the race over and over and over again for, like, 4 hours, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of credits. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of credits. But at the same time, you got to think in your head, you're like, oh, yeah, I literally just played the same race over and over and over and over and over again for, like, freaking 4, 6, however many hours people play it for. And it all depends. Like, the longer you play that race for, the more return you're going to get from it. But again, you are playing the same race over for 4 freaking hours, and it is, it's not an easy thing to just sit down and do. I mean, it might be for some people, but I think other people, attention spans only go so far in terms of races like that. So you kind of have to think a little bit further ahead. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to sit down for 4 hours and do that. But Regardless, I'm very, very curious to play the Goliath race in the new game. I mean, that's going to be super, super fun. And again, this video started off as being about the drift roads and, you know, further confirming to you guys, the drift guys, that these drift roads are coming, these battle sections are coming, and they'll be there. They'll be there for everybody. And I think these, you know, especially those switchback sections, they're going to be, you're going to be able to use those for drift battles. And especially because of the fact that the photo mode will be available online. That is just a huge step forward for Horizon, because up until now, we've had to use other methods to get pictures with our friends online. But now, we've freaking got the photo mode, and I cannot wait to get some shots of like cars going sideways, you know, real proper drift shots that are really, you know, you set it all up, you figure out where you want everybody's cars, and then you just get these gorgeous drift shots on those hairpin corners. Oh my god, I can't wait. But if you guys are excited for drifting in Horizon 4, drift battles, drift builds, everything drift related, let me know by slamming that like button. Tell me in the comment section below what y'all thought of this video and how you all feel about the Horizon 4 map as we've seen thus far, and I will see y'all later. Talk to you guys next time. Oh, and make sure you subscribe for more.